Novus Mundus. Her new goal is to find people alive. Along with the documents is a map. She sees that to the south, some 75 kilometers away, there is supposed to be a specially created port. But she fears it has been destroyed to conceal the presence of the project. Still, she hopes to find a boat to sail along the coast and perhaps find a village. Moving away from this prison, Asha gradually climbs the southern slope of the crater. She takes a moment to look behind her. The dome is impressive. In the distance, she can see a wind farm and part of a solar panel park, all overgrown and falling apart. Despite the mountainous terrain, they've pulled off quite an achievement to install all this here. She wonders why they installed solar panels in the crater. If they were indeed photovoltaic panels combined to pluviovoltaic, a better location could have been chosen. Let's just say there had to be a reason. She also notices some tunnels. What could they be used for? She wasn't really interested in the answer. Asha resumes her ascent. Alternating between walking and running, she covers some 68 kilometers before reaching the south coast. Along the way, she compares the data she has from Greenland as it was in the past. And what a change! It's unrecognizable, with rivers, grass, and bushes. The coastline has changed too, since the water has risen in the meantime. She doesn't understand why she hadn't thought of the coastline change before setting off. But never mind, she's there now. And of course, if there was a port, it's underwater. So she decides to follow the coast, heading east to try and reach some old villages or towns. If she heads west, it would take much more time to find anything, according to the information at her disposal. Asha covers more than 250 kilometers of zigzagging coastline, dotted with rolling hills and small streams. Here she is, far to the east, at Cape Brewster, between the Scoresby Bay and the Denmark Strait. But still no boat on the horizon. She has to make a choice: swim for 12 hours to reach the other side and hope to reach a town, or walk around it, which would take 68 hours. She's going for the walk, the run. She doesn't know what's in the water. Perhaps a sea current might even carry her away despite her superhuman strength. She prefers to opt for safety. On the route, she comes across some birds, which fills her with wonder and joy. But there is no sign of terrestrial life, or at least she wasn't lucky enough to come across any. The same flora all the way. Although, a little further north, she sees a kind of swamp that's home to much more life than anywhere else. There are lots of insects, mosquitoes, caddisflies, dragonflies, mayflies, and many others. Asha observes a lot and feels increasingly confident that she will find living humans somewhere. As she reaches the end of the detour she had to make, she sees the remnants of a village completely submerged, just offshore. Asha continues on her way. Further on, another village submerged by the waters. This time, a fishing village, as several boats had washed up on the beach, but none of them usable. Given these discoveries, she wonders whether humans had migrated towards the continents. Her first instinct was to follow the coast of Greenland, but would there even be people here anymore? According to her information, and in view of the trajectory humanity had taken in the past, humans living in Greenland would have left the area little by little, as overfishing had prevented coastal villages from continuing to provide for their needs. Melting waters had made the land somewhat impassable, and the change in topography was too unpredictable. As far as she was concerned, knowing this, they had left. The few people who would have remained must have spent their last days here before leaving this world. Nearly 600 years have passed, after all, and events must have happened along this time. So, she sets off again in her quest for a boat. After a few hours' walk, she comes across another fishing village, but this time she sees an overturned boat floating in the distance, where the town's port must have been. She swims out to it. It's attached by a long chain, which Asha manages to break thanks to a deformed link. She sees several other boats, some sunk by the life that had decided to dwell on them, others floating in equilibrium underwater. She ignores the rest and brings the boat she's just unchained to the beach. Luckily, it seems to be made of the same alloy as the box in which the documents were stored. That's why the chain was still in good condition. Around the boat, marine life had made their home. She simply decides to leave the moss alone. Oars are hanging inside. They are in perfect condition. They just need a bit of cleaning. Asha doesn't waste a moment. Her route is all mapped out. She's not stopping in Iceland, Ireland, or the UK. She wants to reach the continent. Her destination is Norway, to have the shortest distance to cover. She just hopes the currents won't be too strong. She sets off in her boat to face the ocean. After a few hours, surrounded by the Arctic Ocean, she notices that there is hardly any current. Could climate change and its heat have slowed down the ocean currents so much? The ocean is almost too calm. Even the wind is barely audible. She continues on her way to the Atlantic. After rowing for almost 6 full days in an almost perfect straight line, thanks to her ability to stay on course with the help of an internal compass, she sees what is supposed to be Norway in the distance. But as she heads for it, a current of unbelievable force sweeps her southwards despite her strength. The boat is being carried into the North Sea. In the horizon, nothing is visible, but the force carries her further south. After a few hours, she hears the waves breaking with deafening roars and sees the seas distorting inwards, like a cloth being pulled by the tips of 2 fingers through the center. Asha stands up, speechless. A wave hits the boat. Our friend loses her balance, falls backward into the water, and clings at the very last moment to a rope. She struggles underwater, and eventually manages to reach the surface, takes a deep breath, and finally returns to the boat. In a matter of seconds, the boat is almost tilted at 45 degrees. It's a maelstrom of unheard of proportion. Asha is frightened, powerless against this kind of natural phenomenon. All she can do is hope for a slowdown. All she can do is curl up somewhere and keep her fingers crossed. According to her estimates, this sea monster is over 100 meters in diameter. The depth, on the other hand, is too variable to be estimated. The maelstrom is heading for the center of the North Sea, while the boat is being swept along with ever-increasing force. But fortunately, it's light enough to be carried extremely slowly towards the eye of the maelstrom. After 6 long hours of waiting, everything stops. The water in the center begins to rise, and spectacular waves meet at the center, creating a tidal wave of total disproportion, so immense that Asia hardly feels it. The center collides, creating inverted waves accompanied by expulsions of water. After hours of instability, the sea is almost completely calm again. The current carried her further south, and, by chance, she sees several pieces of land to the west in the distance, and to the south, a little closer. She should be between the United Kingdom, France, and Belgium, but the latter is nowhere in sight, as most of it is underwater, while what is remaining of the Netherlands is only a handful of islands. She wishes to land south, in the north of France. She has to continue well beyond the submerged Calais, needing another 15 kilometers or so to finally set foot on land. Once ashore, a beach filled with completely natural vegetation is revealed in a thick fog, as if global warming had never existed. The ground is soaked all the way to the forest, a swampy forest, moss, bushes, pools. It's teeming with life. She even spots small rodents nestling in the trees, and amphibians. Humans must have tried to adapt the coast to different weather phenomena, or perhaps nature itself has imported them over the centuries. To avoid a large part of Belgium that has been swallowed up, Asha continues southwards. After a few kilometers, the forest starts to thin out, revealing an almost desert-like climate. She didn't expect such a radical change over such a short distance. Everything has changed so much. As far as the eye can see, a mixture of earth and desert sand. On her way, she passes over what were supposed to be small towns and villages. Nothing is left of them, most likely destroyed by climate, weather phenomena, then covered by a layer of earth and sand. Escueil, Kesque, Senlec, Vicangon, Créqui have all become invisible to the eye. They disappeared under the weight of time. Some, like Auchy-les-Dains, Filièvre, Saint-Ouen, and Amiens, are underwater, which means that the water have risen by 60 meters and all the world's glaciers have melted. Out of curiosity, she decides to go to Paris. She wants to see for herself the state of one of the world's most famous capitals. Along the way, more and more dryness. France is unrecognizable, leaving the ground cracked. Here and there, small oases of salt water. Many rivers and streams are now nothing more than a backflow of seawater, with fresh water sources having all but disappeared. After the town of Sarcelles, it's impossible to continue. She has to make a detour to Villepinte, and then reach the Père Lachaise cemetery in the 20th arrondissement of Paris, at least what's left of it. Along the way, she's seen many crumbling buildings sticking out of the sand, as if buried, the power of man being now just a distant memory. Almost all of Paris is submerged. Between 1 and 20 meters of water covered its capital, once walked on by those considered the greatest of this world. Farewell haute couture, farewell luxury restaurants, farewell untouchable men and women of power, farewell democratic monarch, farewell people who are nothing passing through train stations. Being in contact with all these ruins, all this emptiness, makes her experience a powerful anemoia, alone in the middle of this dilapidated capital. All this, once again, is nothing but a distant memory. A memory that doesn't even belong to her. With her curiosity satisfied, Aisha hits the road once more. No human beings have been encountered. Her quest is not over yet.